So to initially start with, logging. Why we need? What is the purpose of that logging? And what is the advantage of going for logging? If we can see that first, what is logging? Means like till now we are using print statements. If you want to know what is happening within the programming. So print is good when you are doing in the development stage. So okay. So when you are in development and testing, it's fine. In the SDLC cycle, we have like, SDLC means software development life cycle. So first you get the requirements, then like you used to do the development, then you do the, so testing or like user acceptance, then like going to the production. This is how we work, right? So as in a development, this is good in the development process. Even in testing also, it is good to have prints. But subsequently, if you are adding prints, what will happen is like, it will take a lot of time for prints also. At the same time, it is like who will see the print statements every time? What if your program is printing like, thousands of lines daily? If the print happens, can the console store that much records? That is a problem, right? And if let's say in 3 o'clock in the morning it is executing, will you stay to just see what is happening in the 3 in the morning? So these are not feasible things. So print is for like ordinary local debugging. So for other purpose, it's not that good. And suddenly someone says like, hey, yesterday night, 1 o'clock in the midnight, your application was down for some time. Okay, how can we say like whether they are bluffing or they had a problem from their sides, or is it really a problem in our application? How can you recognize that issues? So to understand all these kinds of things, we need to go for this one. A typical log will have the state of every information. Say if I can create a small readme file and paste it, you can understand that if you see like a typical logging, so it will have all the information. A log, if I say that these were the log files, if someone gave you, so don't you understand from these logs that these were logs from 2015 on this particular day at a particular time? So they are saying like these logs can also be classified, like what level of information they are giving. Say simple, let's take a very simple real world example. So some people, cricketers came and they came to a stadium for playing a game, and you are giving a commentary, or like you are making a record of everything. So you are a person who is a basic observer. You are making a record of everything. If in this case, if let's say you are the person who is conducting this kind of cricket game in the stadium, for you everything is needed, like who is coming to the stadium, at what time they are coming, at what time they are leaving, so where they are exactly present right now. Just imagine, for the same cricket stadium, so an individual like me came for just watching. Am I interested in what time someone checked in and checked out? No, right? I am focused only on the game. When the game starts, when the game stops, who are in the field, that's it. But just imagine like I am like, so the commentator. So I need few more details. Or like if I assume that I'm a player, if I am the player, what I don't deal about like who came to the stadium, when they came, nothing. For me, like, so what is the, when I need to go into, what is the current score? That's it, right? Who are the other players? Just imagine within the particular situation, you understood that a lot of events happens, but not everyone is interested in every event, right? In the same fashion, even in application is there. So for application also, there will be multiple events, but not everyone is interested in every event. So that's why we classify them. Based upon that, we can go ahead. Let's take simple example here. You see in this example what happened. So started installing the product, installing the prerequisites, installing the core software, reconfiguring the machine settings, successfully installed the product, unable to reconfigure the machine settings. Retry to reconfigure, unable to retry the settings. So overall, after seeing, you understood that they are trying to install a software, but which was unable to, so it was able to successfully install, but reconfiguration was unable to do. Due to that, it aborted the process. So now in this process, so if I assume that things are successful, so as a user, I don't need anything, right? So, so that's the reason. So everything was mentioned like this. Info level means minimum information. Debug. Debugs are generally needed for the developers to understand. Hey, I came out of the function. I came inside the function. So do you think like the person who is using the software, let's say Zoom software is someone is using, say assume that Zoom software is written in Python. Do the user, as a individual user, are we concerned? So whether it has gone from one function to another? So like that, debug is for like users. Next, info is somewhat better. So error means something happened. Warning means something if you are doing away. And critical means it is an error, but we need to handle immediately. So due to that, like in the SDLC cycle, I told right, dev, UAT, so testing and production. These are like, 3 or 4 states will be there depending upon your applications. Some applications will have dev, UAT, prod itself, or some applications will have these 4 environments individually. So for that, they have created like this. So if you go for like other language, let's say Node.js has like some 7 states. So, but like language to language, things changes slightly. But overall, this is a maturity. If you see development, we can go with the debug mode. So info is needed in the dev or testing. So from when the real production happens, they don't need all these things. So in production, that's why production, what will happen? Only error and critical are needed. Other logs are not needed. Now, why we are creating these many logs when someone don't use it? This is a good question, right? Anyone can ask. But the point is, when the application is running, so for every environment, based upon the environment, we cannot change the code, right? The code lines will be written the same way for everyone. We should have some way in which we can nullify the other logs. Say, when are you going for production? You don't want any other levels except error and critical. Means other lines, though you have written, it should be nullified. We should not see that. So how I will do that, what I will tell you. So first I will tell you how to create a log, how to format a log, then how to do this kind of level playing. So all these things I will tell. Then we will have log handlers. Means where the log should come. Is it into the console? That is called a stream handler. If you want to place into a file, that is file handler. When you're placing file also, there are multiple ways like base rotating handler, rotating file handler, rotating timed rotating handler, like socket handler, datagrams, SMTP means like an email, syslogs, especially in Linux it works. So NT event means for Windows. Memory handlers means if the specified memory is increased in the file, then it will reconfigure. Means it will remove the last logs. The same thing in base rotation also. If I say file rotation handler, and if I give a file size, so if the file size exceeding, say, I have given the size of 1 MB, every day when you are writing a logs, the file size will increase, right? The moment the size exceeds, then it will remove the last log. So like that, different ways of logging handlers are there. So we can have sometimes multiple logger handlers together also. It's very, very interesting thing. So let's start somewhere. So to work on it, the first and foremost is the built-in logger. So that's the most common thing. So built-in logger. So built-in logger means like the moment you install Python, you will get something called as a logging module. So we can use that. So using that is a very interesting way. So it can help you, but you don't have certain extra functionalities. Due to that, many people have created multiple log functions. I will take one or two among them to help you afterwards. So first to start with, how a typical logging file works. I created a small logging file and I want to display. So right? So if I say like a ordinary print statement in the output, if I try to execute, so print. So I need to navigate to this directory. Okay, CLS and Python so and so. You see what are the print statement I gave? I got it as it is, right? Fine. And similarly, hope you remember, so we can also use sys module for printing. So print is one way of printing. At the same time, we can use sys module also, I told. Means same like this. If I say std error or std out, there are two things which can come to the stream. Std means stream. Stream means the console. You can think like that. So here, if you see now, if I execute, so both error handler and stream handler are printing in the output only. So even print statement also does the same thing. But among these two also, we use std error whenever you want to display the error message. So std out I use whenever I want to print an ordinary message, right? Using the print. But both also can do the same job. So at the same time, like, if you want to pass the content to a file, I think I till now didn't tell you how to pass to a file, right? Till now we know how to create a file. Say like with open of file dot say log, and I can say like in a write mode. So as file handler, you can do like file handler dot write of say file, sorry, file handler dot write log. This is log line. If I do like this, what will happen? It's gonna create a new file and help me, right? So that's what we know. So if I execute, it's gonna create like this. And if I say ls, I can see a file. And if I say cat file lot so and so, you can see this line. But like, do you know that there is another way of doing the same thing? So there is something like this called, um, say I created like 00 print log so and so. I created a file handler, right? Till now, how you create a file handler. So traditionally also you can create like without context also we can create, right? So how I did, file handler is equal to like this. And I did like this. When you did a file handler like this, we don't need a with statement, but you did. In the same fashion, in the second case also, you open another file. So this time, use the print statement itself. So I think this is one thing you never seen till now. So it is a typical print statement. You see here, I am not writing to the file. I am directly doing like this. Observe now the difference. If I execute, you know, if I execute, if I say ls, did you see another file was called created? So if I say like cat this file, did you see what the message is? So if you want to write it to a file, directly open the file handler and do file handler dot write. Like this also you can do. Like this also you can do. But most of the people don't use this way because it will, so try to do. But you can try. I did in a write mode, right? So you can do in append mode, give a try. So you can see how things works. So that is also possibility. You can do, you can close it. So without context manager, whenever you're opening, it is up to you to close, right? So if I do fs dot close, it will close, gonna close. Maybe like, I can create an appending mode. So this is like, so two, maybe like line two, something I wrote. You see now, oh, sorry. If I execute, so cat 005. You see, both in write mode also you can do, append mode also you do. When I did in append mode, the existing lines were not removed. So, but like it was done. So this is just to show you how things works. In the same fashion, so after you're done, but like this is not a concern. Just I am here, like I'm just showing you. And similarly, if you want to do any writing of anything works, you can do like this. You know, you can std out of file handler. Of course, if I don't close it, if I don't close it, I can write to it. Std out of file handler. If I say instead of coming outside, so it will come there. Now you see this time. So I created a file handler. I'm adding something in append mode. You understood till then. Then I marked this sys.std out is equal to file handler. So after that, if I'm writing, till now in the above, what happened when I'm writing? It is coming in the output, right? But I'm saying that, hey, whichever comes to std out. redirect to this file handler I wrote. Now you see what will happen. If I execute further, so these statements which are supposed to come here, so everything will go there. And after that, if I do an ordinary print statements also, they will not come down. Did you see this print function, ordinary 1, ordinary 2, ordinary 3, all these values? They are not coming here. So where they have gone? You see now, did you see all were gone? So if you want to redirect entire print statements, so entire std out to a print, that's how it works. So this is what a smart way of doing. Whenever if you want to do, I used to do like this whenever I go on with old programs. At the time, so they used to use all print statements. So if I go to each of the code and changing everything, it used to be very hard. That's why I used to do this kind of redirecting. If I say that, what is this meaning is that open a file, and if you're doing in append mode, that is the best way, because if you do in write mode, it will every time it will clear. So if I do an append mode, then you can see that every time things are added. So if I see now, if I execute, it will re-execute again. If I re-execute also, it will be fine, because for the first time I'm opening, I'm doing in write mode, right? So it will cleanse the previous outputs. From there onwards, things will be like this. And if I do the closing this file handler before doing further, you can notice that I cannot do on a closed file. You should not close it. So after your work is done only, you should close. So that is what you should be aware. But this is the best practice to close at the end of your work is done. Hope it's clear. Next, not only this, in the same fashion, if I do like a try exception. So till now we have this one, right? Maybe like I'm not even closing this at this moment. Leave it like this. And I am doing like, 1 plus 1 as a string. If I do 1 plus 1 as a string, what will happen? It will throw an error, right? So this error is coming now here. But so why, sir, you did std out there, but std error was not navigated, right? That's the reason std out is coming. Now with this program, I want to tell you std out and std error are two different streams. So error stream is coming here, right? Still. And similarly, if you want to redirect this, so what will happen instead of commenting? If I do like this, what will happen? Will it go to the error stream or output stream? So if you don't handle, it will become an error, right? It will break the code. But if you handle, it will become an output stream. So that's why this content will go to this one. You see, water is coming, that's going there. Similarly, if this time if I do like, exception handling, say like, I did a handler like this, file handler, and this time I did 1 by 0. So 1 by 0, I did 1 plus 1 as a string I did. So you do all kinds of nonsense. Now you see the output. Sorry. Yeah, see the output now? Nothing is coming out. So in fact, like everything is going to this log file. Did you see? So zero division error before, like, so cannot add all these things. Every error is going there, right? Now, did you all understand? So, and after that, like if I do anything after that, like, like I close the context and I'm trying to do, you see now what will happen? The last statement, so it will not execute because you close the file handler, right? After that, if you do statements also, it will not come. Again, if you, redirect, then it will work. But of course, don't do this. So the point of explaining this program is for you to understand how the logging works and what are the streams. Now let me go to a typical logging file, how a logging works and what we can do there. So for working on logging, there is a module called as logging. So if I go with a DAR of this logging, you can understand a good amount of things there. CLS and Python. Okay, you see here now. Oh, print statement. If I see the DAR, you can see a good amount of attributes. So the basic things are like, there are a lot of constants like formattings, logins, etc. But still, did you see that here also there is a OS module? so assist module, IO module, threading module. So I told you. So these were all the modules which were created based upon the original basic modules. That's the reason in the DIR attributes of any module. So whatever you see, the third-party modules, you will see the basic modules are also part of it. The reason is because simple. So they are also making use of these basic modules. So you need not, then you can ignore some of them. You can focus on what is needed. At the same time, I told, right, learning a language is different from learning the modules. So it is just like, so extra thing that you need to learn. It's like a learning. So now, if I say here, as I told, so generally we do the imports in the starting. This is the best practice. So when you're writing any program, if I execute, you see, I told you just now how to print. So what is the difference also I told. In the same fashion, there is one more thing. You understood till now, like print or std out, ball will work in the same way. In the same fashion, I have one more thing. Logging dot debug, logging dot info, logging dot error. I told you there are 5 levels, right? These were the 5 levels. If I print them, so though I have given like 5 types of logs, did you see only 3 among them came? So what could be the reason? So the reason is very simple. By default, this logging level is set at the warning, because assuming by default what are the code you pass, it is assuming like a production ready code. So that's why the flag is set as warning. So in a production code, they don't need info and debug messages, right? So whenever you're doing any code, so they by default set like that. Because if they set by default like a develop mode, then whenever you're going to production, every time you should nullify, right? So this is the best practice. As a developer, when you are doing, you can set the different levels. How to set that level, I will tell you shortly. So, but like what you understood here is that, so what are the values which are above that level, below that level, sorry, below that level will not come. So think like this, debug is the minimum level. So critical is the maximum level. If you set the level at any of them, anything greater than that will come. If I set the level at as info, so anything greater than info will come. If I set the level at debug, then everything will come. So when you want to set this level to debug, when you are in development, when you want to set the level to the info, when you are into testing till there. So when you're going to production, you should set that value like that. So okay, I will tell you how to do the settings afterwards. Leave it aside. In the same fashion, when you're creating a logs, there is another thing in terms of formatting. So whenever you're doing a log formatting, so there are traditional ways of doing. You create, hope you remember, this is the old style formatting. If you have 2 percentiles in a placeholders, you need to pass 2 values. If you have 1 percentile, 1 value. So like that you need to pass. Even using a print statement also we do the same thing, right? And if you give any mismatch there, it gonna throw in error, right? So hope you know these problems. If you give exactly, then both will work. It will format the log and it will print it. Of course, this is a old school concept. Now you can do with a f strings, right? So f strings replacement is next thing. That's why nowadays no one is using like this. Simply comma separated values. And observe, I will tell you one important thing. So you see here, so either you can do percentile and pass like this itself, or like comma separated also you can pass. But in an ordinary file, if you pass like a comma separated, did you see the difference? In an ordinary print statement, if I say comma separated, the string is coming as it is, and after that the values are coming. So, and observe the difference. This is how you do. But nowadays no one is using because they are going with the f strings, which are much more easy for people to understand. F string assignments, hope all these things you are aware, right? So this one, so dot format. So instead of I writing everything specifically, you can understand. So here they write it, f string assignment. So similarly, so after that, f strings came. So f strings made the things much more easy. You just make it like 5 here, and here like poles. So poles have. So you need not specifically pass like an argument. You can pass like this also. So it doesn't mean how you give, but if you give like a string, it will execute. So that is how it works. Okay. So after this, you understood like how to print a log, means how the formatting works and everything. Fine. After that, if let's say I'm going for a small function and I want to print the logs. So let me go with an example. I wrote a small function called as addition. Within that addition, whenever it is coming, I'm printing addition function start. See how many times I'm printing. So now you see what will happen. If I execute any number of times, is it coming? And if I mention it as like a info, so will it come? No. If I mention it like a warning, so will it come? Now, did you all understand what's the point? So when you push the same code in production, instead of commenting every line wherever you have written these info labels, logs, and so and so, one flag level if you do, everything can be changed. Now, going further about this configuration, so if I can go ahead, a typical logging, so will be based upon the configuration information. Based upon that only we will, tailor this. Means, now you just printed these logs, but you didn't set the levels. But if you want to set the level, there is something like this. Basic config. See, there are two C's, small c and capital C. So they tuned it based upon similar to make it similar to the Java syntax for logging so that everyone can understand. So logging basics config and you pass the level as debug. See now, as I pass the level as debug, from now you can notice that all the values will come. Do you see? And if they set the values as info right now, to execute, did you see? From info onwards, everything came. So things above that didn't come, right? And not only that, so this is a traditional way of doing. Everyone does that. But in fact, there is another alternative way of doing the same. You can also say that logging.log off, like this also you can pass. So of course, were you interested to do that? It's up to you. But just to tell you that logging message you can pass like this or like this also. Even if you pass directly also, indirectly it will do the same thing. Now, in this case, see the example. If I do the same example again, and if I pass, so same addition and debug log, everything. Now, if you see example, did you see nothing is coming? If I remove all and I try to ask again, I'm not getting. The reason being here, I mentioned the level as info. So as debug is less than that, it's not coming. And if I replace it with debug, you see when I'm mentioning a flag, it is capitals, ordinary attributes, sorry, function. So it like that. Now in this case, you see, you got the debug log. It's clear how I configure the login levels. Fine. So similarly, if you want to disable logs, sometimes if you want to disable logs, some part of the functions, because like they were like more secured enough, sometimes you don't want to display them. So in that cases, we can go for something like for the entire project you want, but in some functionalities, so you don't want logging. So all those kind of cases, so we can go with some kind of disabling. This is how you set the levels, right? And if you want to disable a login, so the first way of doing is like this. So you can go ahead like this, to disable. So logging dot disable of sys dot get size. So this is like in Python 2, and like this is like in max size in Python 3. So if I do this, and after that, if I print the logging messages, so then you can observe that the logs will not come. If I say print a Python, so 03, so and so, did you see nothing came? Say like if I do the same thing in the starting, so logging one or something, so debug, one message I gave. Now observe the difference. First initially debug message came. After that I disabled, so nothing came. And similarly, there is another way of doing also, so which is more popular compared to these. So another way of disabling is like this: logging dot get logger dot disabled equal to true. If I do like this also, the same thing happens. So initially comes, and after that it will not be printed. And after that, if I print this my print statement of my real-time example, so nothing will happen. Not just debug, any message, log message will not come, right? So like that, if you want to re-enable again also, you can do. So again, you need to do the enabled is equal to true. If I do like enabled again true, so then things will work. So if I say like, disabled equal to, if I say false, then I can do like logging dot dot info of the last statement. If I execute now, you see now the last statement came. So that is how it works. So once you have configured this flag, so you can enable or disable the things. And similarly, going further, if I wanna, yeah, sorry. Yeah. So the next thing is logging to file. So till now we have seen how to log to the console. So now if you want to log to a file, it is very easy. As you already know how to do the file operations, the next step I want to introduce is about the same file, whatever you did previously, I am passing to this one. Here, within the basic config itself, we need to give whatever we want. You can observe that we are giving the file, so the where the file should be created, so where it should pass. You see now, all the log files which are creating are coming here only, if you can observe carefully till now. So instead of coming here, maybe if you want like a folder where everything should go in the folder, I can create a small folder called as logs. So I can ask them to go there. So I can pass like so logs slash. So just give the Linux slash. That now Windows also can understand. Earlier it used to be big cry. So but like you can, if you want to place Windows slash, you can place an R before that. If you do Linux, nothing will happen. So I want to create like 04 log dot log something. And I want to create the file in a file mode is write. If you don't specify, the default mode is like, so append. So that is what you should be aware of. The default mode is append, means like existing also will be there. And the debug level. So, like the default level is what? Warning. So after that, I gave all these statements. Now, in this case, if I try to execute this program, Python, so 04, if I execute, you can notice that nothing is coming in the output. And in fact, if you see into the folder, a new file was created. And if you can open, everything is there. What are you created? So that is how you can create. So in the basic config, you should say file name and file mode. If you don't specify, it is an append. And level you should specify. Right? For a basic config, level if you don't specify, it is a warning, the level. And now going further to the next thing. If I go ahead within this logging configuration. So in the logging configuration, now you're getting log, but log how you're getting, just like what is the format and so and so. If you want to configure that format, you have something like these things. These are predefined things you should learn. So if I say name, I will get name. If I say level number, level name, level name, path value name, file name. So which file it is, module, function name, line. So all these informations are like, which you are part of like a thread name, processes, process name, message, what is the message we are printing. All that information you can configure. So first I am creating the log at the file so and so. Means it will not come anymore to my file. It will go there, right? So from now we can work on those files. You see, observe now, interestingly. So I'm mentioning the format as ASC, so this one and so information. And you see, observe carefully. And I'm asking to print these logs. At the same time, I'm doing my real-time work also, you see. Say initially I commented this file. No, I didn't give anything. Then what will happen if I execute Python space Did you see everything came in the output? And you see, observe carefully what is coming. ASC time I told. That's why the time came like this. This is the ASC time format. So date, month, year. So like time, AM or PM. And after that, I gave the log level. So that's why log level came. So what is this 8 and all these things? I will tell you very interestingly now. So one after the other, we will try every message. Say, like first and foremost, I'm not doing all these things. Okay. Uh, Let me comment. Okay. Say everything. Okay. So this time first I'm passing only the message. Then if I say only message, then see what will happen. The message that you're passing only that is coming. And similarly, if you're passing like a name before it, after that, it's up to you. If whatever the format you give, it will come as it is. So if I see here, if I execute, did you see first the message is coming, then the root or which are the name? What is you mean by name means the application which is running. The default name is root because we don't create till now like a project. When you create a project, that's where we can see. So as of now, like this. So that's why what happens is like every time they place the name, so message in the last, because you can have a lot of headers in the starting. But if the root is here, like here, this here, so it would be difficult. So if I execute right now, root is coming followed by the message. And if I place a hyphen in middle or space in middle, whatever if I do, it will come as it is. So typical formatting. And if I say this level, percentile yes. If I say that, it will come. See, I'm mentioning like 8s, just yes if I mention. So now you can understand how things are coming. So for info, it is coming info root, warning root, so debug root like that. It is good. So if I say further, like, say after warning, if I say critical also. So what is that after warning? I have error, right? Which is another message. And if I say like critical, that also I'll write. This is another message like that, critical. Okay. If I do all those things, you can notice that all messages are coming, right? Error, warning, info, critical. But don't you think they are not in a proper level, right? Because info is like a word which is occupying only 4 characters, whereas this is occupying 6 characters. So that is the reason to make the things in a proper way. If I say like, say 6 characters. Now you see here, this time things are better, right? Messages are a bit more formatted, but still the formatting is not perfect. So that's the reason. So we are giving like 8 if I give right now. So now if I see the same example, it will be much better. So like that, so for everything, we will add the formatting. If I say like, so in this case, if I add uh, all the 4 values, AC time and all this information, you can notice that from information, everything will come. In the same lines, like if I add anything like a file name, if I say, it will give like which file name and all this information. So hope you remember that, so meta information, right, about the file and others. So I take right now the file name also. So I get the file name too. So generally time will be the first thing that everyone writes. And after the name or somewhere, maybe like, so way within, I will write the file name. Now you can notice that everything will come here, including the file name. So which of the file name is? My file name is like this, like 5, so logging configuration.py. I'm getting. And in the final leg, so if I do like this, means I'm mentioning the file name. If you mention the file name, by default, you are saying that don't come to the output, go to there. So if I execute right now, you can see that it will create. So nothing is outputted. If you see the console in the logs, I created a file and you observe that it has everything information. So why I give that percentile 8s or 5s, like, because to make everything clearly. Okay, it's now it's easy, right, for you to understand any log, for traversing easily. So that is the beauty of these logins. So in the same lines, if you want to create your own custom logging, custom formatting, so all those things we can do. If I can take like a couple of examples to show, say like, So if I go with the custom logging, you can notice that, if I take this example of a formatting. So you see here, I did a custom formatting. I have like a IP address, so user and all this information. So till now you have like ASC time means, so message means, what is this client type is, because you need to pass that extra information along with your existing thing. If you want to have the extra information, you can pass like this. If I pass, so these extra things also we can pass. Means for your project, there are some constants. Like for every application, there are some things. Those you pass it. Now, whenever it is printing, so it will print along with your content. It will do this also. And also, till now, I created logging directly. Logging.info, logging.so and so, right? So for the first time, I'm doing logger. I created a new logger. For that, I am doing like a get logger of some information I give. Hope you remember till now I did logging.so and so, right? That's why I got what is the name means root every time. Whereas in this case, things will be slightly different. See now? So instead of logger, I got like what are information I give. If I say client IP something, so what are the client IP is there? It is coming as it is. Did you see the client IP is coming? So means extra information, whichever I placed. So whoever is the user, so that user information I give. So like that, we can do customizations. And if you want to have some exceptions to be configured, so that is also possibility. So if I go with like exceptions, till now we have seen the logging. So till the logging, so we have seen only 5 kinds of exceptions. So 5 kinds of levels. So debug, info, warning, so error and critical. But there is one thing that I want to here is that same like in the previous, I mentioned a file. So append mode or write mode, I told if I do append mode, every time the existing content will be there. And for every execution, previous line will append in the last. And for the ASC time, if for the date also, if you want in a particular format, you can specify that. And you see in this example, what I am doing, for each of the value, I am doing like this. If it is a even number, I am converting to string. For other cases, it is number as it is. And I am trying to do an info log. But whenever there is an exception, instead of an error log, I am doing an exception log. See what is the difference, how it works. Initially, I removed everything. Info log, I'm mentioning like a error log. Okay. If I do like a error log, Python 07, if I see, nothing will come outside because you placed a file, right? So that's why everything will come to that file. So if I go under the logs folder, so I will get a new file created 07. If I observe that the content is there, I told that it is an append mode. To understand that, you can see here, every time I'm re-executing, the content is getting subsequently added. So it is not overwriting the previous content, right? This is a concept of append mode. So if you do in a write mode, existing content everything will be removed and new content will add. And in the same fashion, here I told one more thing. If you are doing log, so like this, it is coming, but you are not getting like exception information. You see here, did you get any exception information? You are just getting like concatenating so and so. But what kind of exception? You don't know. If I say that except equal to true, so exception message. So now you see here, you see the entire exception message is coming, right? So how this is coming? Because I, instead of like logging.error, I did after that except information is equal to true. So instead of you doing this one, there is another way called as exception of ex. So either you can use like this or like this. So both will do the same thing. If I execute, now you see the last, the finally in that, you can see the same information again. So this is for handling the exceptions whenever you have. Hope it's fine. Example, which one of the practical example I can take is I want to check the file disk management. I want to do. Means I want to create a small logger now. In real time, I can create log in my own way. Say, instead of just logging, import logging as LG I'm doing. I can do this kind of alias also, right? So if I say like log LG dot info of something ID. Now if I go navigate to this directory, Python say 08. If I do, you can understand that it is actually not printing anything. The reason is simple. We have something like logging dot basic config I told. Here, if I specify the level is equal to, so logging dot info. You see, the moment I specified it, if I ask again, you can see that input is coming. Fine. In the same fashion, for the logging dot basic config, if I pass any information, it's gonna work. So starting from say the level, so instead of directly, if I want to place in a file, so I can specify that information, say like file name. We are writing to a logs folder slash maybe like 008 logging dot log. It doesn't mean that every time log file should end with a dot log extension. You can write in a dot txt also, but this is a general notion. Everyone goes with a dot log. So how different is dot log from dot txt means nothing. It is just like a flat file only, but it is up to us where you want to add more things. So if you want to specifically add more things to it, as we have in the previous case, we can specify how the file need to come, format, levels, everything. If I specify all this information, if I ask, you can see nothing is coming in the output. The reason being, everything will go to this file. So if I go to 8 logging, you can see the output. What are you have written? Going further, within this log, now if I want to write some logic, so the logic is very simple. I want to get some information from the user, the runtime. For getting in runtime, I write like input. So I want to get the disk space. If the user gives a disk space as some information, based upon that, I want to get some logs. So generally you see, so you have a hard disk region. Every time user is telling what is the size. Based upon that, you want to do something. Say if the size is greater than 100, it is critical, we need to replace it. So if it is 80 to 100, some error. If it is 70 to 80, some warning. In other cases, it's a debug. So this is how you want to do it. So if I execute again and Python space 08 so and so, it is asking if I say 10, I got an output. So where the output is, it is in this file. If I go ahead and see, every time it is generating. And if I see in real time, if I say 45, I get it. And if in the real time, if I say some 67, I got it. And in the real time, if I say some 89, I got it. And in the real time, if I say 99, I got it. And finally, if I say 100, I got critical. Did you all understand how the logs are generating? Based upon some real-time actions, some of these logs are generating, and you can see that. So right like this, you can create your own application. For that application, we can add the logs. Sir, which one should be like a info? Which one should be like a debug? Is there any particular thing? No. These are kind of subjective things. As a developer, you know better than many people, right? Like how you want to distribute your logs. So no one will write like, entering a function, coming out of the function. Those things will not be in for log, right? With common sense, if you think, you will understand. So based upon that, you do. After that, so within the logs, the next thing that I want to focus is on the formats. So hope you remember, I told something like a pprint. I told pprint, import pprint I told, and also pp I told. These are like two things in the pprint module. Primarily when you're working with a large files, like a say like a dictionary or something, it can help, right? If I have say data like this, if I use an ordinary print statement for printing it, so when you're doing in a Jupyter notebook, you will not notice any difference. But that is not the real world every time, right? Only when you're working on so data science related things, you work on Jupyter notebook a lot. But in other case, you need to write your own code. If I say Python space 09 so and so, just see what is happening. If I print it, it will print like this. Okay, printing is not a problem, but can you understand like what are the keys, what are the values in these dictionaries? It's kind of like so clumsy, right? To better handle this, that's where I told that we can go for something called as pprint. So pprint, if you want to use, we need to import that module. From pprint, import pprint. If you do now, did you notice? Now tell me, the first case is easy to understand or like second one is easy to understand? Second one is easy. But the difference is like second one, so this pprint will do sorting for displaying. So it will do the extract. And similarly, there is one more thing called as pp of data if I do. So this will display as it is. So no more like sorting, alphabetical sorting, nothing will happen. So but like it will show as it is. So that's the beauty of it. So that's the reason P is there. Okay, these are good, sir. But what if I want to do similar thing for the logs? For logs also we need to do, right? So like that. So typically if I create a logger, you know, if I typically create a logger, how I do? So what we have done till now. So first I need to import the logging. Of course, I can do in the starting also, just for you to show. I created a login, added some basic config, some levels, something. If I execute after this, you can see what are the logs coming. What if you want to do this logging dot debug of, so what are the data I have in the top? That data if I want to print. Did you see so clumsily? For your convenience, for you to understand, for a moment, I am commenting these two, for you to better understand. So you can see now what will happen. What are the debug is coming as it is, but it would be very clumsy for you to understand, right? This data with this. So then like using, there is one more thing called as, from this pp like this, there is something called as p format. From pprint, there is something called as p format. So then what will happen? It's very interesting. If I do with format, it will create like a single formatted string. Then each time you go to the line and you print it. So now you see what will happen. If I do now, it will execute formatted fashion. So for you to understand, if I comment like the ordinary way and I print either pp or I print either of them, and this also, only these two I want to print for you to better understand. See, when you did a p print, you got like this. So I think this debug log is causing these kind of things, right? Debug log is coming like this. Whereas if I do like p format and print, it will do like this. And on top, if I add the same things to a file, so how you do? File name is equal to, under the logs folder you are creating, maybe like 09 logging dot log. If I create, so instead of printing here, so all these things will go there, right? You see now here also very interesting things. If I go ahead and if I go to the logging, did you see the logging is more easy? Just imagine in the first case and second case. In the first case, everything is coming like this. So clumsy enough, you cannot understand, what is the complete data set? Who is the key, who is the value? Generally in production, when you're doing the logs, you copy that and you understand. But here, don't you think it's easy for you to understand and digest now? However, the level may be, it is easy, right? So that is what I'm trying to say. So for this, like if I add now ASC time or whatever, the percentile ASC time. So yes, if I execute again, see now, okay, I need to go there. Hope you understood. This time in real world logs will be like this. So don't you think it's easy for you to understand when a big complex variable is present? So that is advantage of P format. So how you are doing all these things? So because of this P format, instead of just getting it like an ordinary log, you convert like the big variable, and then you do like log like this. Means instead of one line, you do like in multiple lines. So that is one advantage of P formats. So similarly, for logging, when you're doing, we can also do something called as a configuration. Instead of directly doing all this information, means you have a lot of configuration information, right? Level, format, name, and all these things. If you can extend by creating a separate folder file actually for this configuration, such that it can be used subsequently. So there is something called as logging.config file. See, .conf. Within that, it is like a typical file where you call it as a sections. Within each of the anything in square braces, you call it as a section. Under that, you do key equal to value. This is like a config parser format. So uh, every language has this format. Okay, we can parse it. It's a general format. I am saying key equal to root or simple example. Handlers I am giving, formatters I am giving, root I am giving. Simple example. What is the level I am giving? Handlers, everything I am doing. Even for console handler, stream handler, for everything I am giving some configuration. Though we may or may not use some of them, let's start. Say I'm creating a small file. So dict config file. So I want to start working. So the configuration can be done two ways. Either you can extract from this information and do it, or like directly also you can do it. So if you want to, so if you feel like this is complicated at this moment, you can also get this information from the other side. So first, if I want to do in an ordinary way without using this much complex things, so first what I will do, sorry. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, first I will do what? I'll create the same thing like a configuration like information. So import login. I created a file, config file. So whatever similarly what I did in the other side, config file, like in a dictionary I created. So disable existing logs. So version means for this configuration also some versioning, formatting, what are the handlers, for console how to display, logging level is info, formatter. So stream handler I'm taking means to come in the output. That's why I wrote as console. So like this I gave some information. Now we see here, if I do like a typical logging. So if I do a typical logging, I imported, I use this, place this configuration I'm trying to do. I didn't write to any file, nothing. So by default, it should print in the output, right? So print Python 10 so and so. If I do now, what happened somewhere? Somewhere things are different. It is saying error at line 27. So 27. So where is that error? Could you figure out? Percentile 8 is it is saying. So where I am asking? Oh, config. So I am doing the wrong file. You see, I'm trying to checking the log file. Okay. You see now here what will happen. It is coming in the output. So like by default the first two will not come, but others will come. But is there any difference between using this config and no? Not at this moment. But if you want to make the use of this config, so we need to import one more thing. Import logging.conf of config, and we need to do something like this. So we need to import logging.config. Then like we need to write the configuration information and pass to this dict config. Means instead of doing the configuration directly, we can indirectly also do like this. So if I do like Python 10 so and so, you can observe that its effect is coming. what are the log levels and all the informations you can do. In this way, so like a configuration, instead of individually passing also like this you can. And also like we should be noting that this dict config, what are I'm passing, instead of like a ordinary basic config, this is dict config. So we'll disable all existing loggers if you are specifying. So that's the reason I explicitly wrote. So what do you mean by default loggers? When you're working in a particular project, each application, we can have multiple loggers also. So in that case, it would be useful. Now coming back to the case where I showed the actual configuration, you see here, this is a configuration I told, a lot of things are there. So what if I want to make use of them? To make use of them, say like, okay. So I wrote like a basic config file. So here this time, so same like in the previous example, so I need to use, but the difference is that here also we should have a configuration on how to use and all these things. So till now, if I have like an ordinary file, say import logging, and if I do all these things, you see CLS and Python 11 so and so. Okay, you see now it is an ordinary file. So in the previous case, what I did, you create a dictionary, you did the configuration information. For that, you pass this dict configuration, right? The same fashion. So in this case, when I'm using, I need to again import the config. But this time, I cannot pass a dictionary. I need to pass the file. So which file I need to pass? I need to go to the directory and get it. Say if I want to have the file path something, so that path information if I pass, so it gonna work. So if I say I need to create an example. So for if you want to go to a particular file, you need to work with like OS module, right? Using OS module only, you can direct to a file. So which file it is? This is the log file which I have. I need to point to that file. So for pointing to that file, I can specify here. Say if I have the configuration here itself, I can specify the configuration. So in the current directory, if you want to know, this is how you get the current directory path. Hope you remember in OS module I told. So os.path.absolute file, file means current file for the directory. In the current directory only I have, right? So just to show that, current directory. So plus like this one. So this file is there here only. So fine. And this is the log path we have. Now I need to just also create like a logger. And sorry, I create. I just added it. Now if I execute it, will it come output? It makes no difference, right? Now for this, so logging.config, there is something like this. Logging.config. Here there are like file configuration, right? Here we did a dict configuration. Now file configuration. These file configurations will take the paths. So if I give like log file path, now you see the difference. Did you see the difference how it worked? Did I do anything else? Just I used the file handler path, right? I didn't do anything else. Now this is how I did. So similarly, if you want to creating a logger object in the same fashion we can do. Earlier also I showed. For an ordinary thing also we can do, or if you want to create a logger object also you can do. So similarly, if I do a logger object, I do like this. Logging.getLogger of whatever message I have, I pass it. So you see here there are configurations for different things, right? Simple example is one logger configuration I have, I passed it. Now with respect to that I can do. As I place this particular application code, whatever is there to this simple example, all those things will come here. You see now difference here. So whenever you have a simple application, you got the application name as like simple application, right? Others came, but in both the cases you got the configuration information which is placed there. You didn't make any change, but it worked for you. So for both of the things, it is coming. So like this, you can write any config file also. Which clear? Okay, till now. Now this object creation you understood, right? Now I will mature this further. Till now you have seen the configuration coming either into the basic config within the file itself, or like in a dictionary config also I told, and also like in a config file separately. Now next I will focus on something called as the stream handler logging, file handler logging, like that. Means if I go for one more thing, say like stream handler logging. Stream handler means what? Stream means like console, right? You need to create a logger object. Till now you are using the basic logging. So why we should not use the basic logging dot so and so? So till now what you're doing? Import logging and say logging dot something. So logging dot say, so critical or error or something you do. If I do like something, I'm getting it. Okay, now let's say, so in your application, there were different modules. And for each module, you want to get different information. So if you are using the same logging module, everything will have the same level. So you cannot customize. Maybe like just think like this. You have a Django application or any web application. If the users are doing some activity, user related activity, you want to log in a different way. So like, admin related activity, you want to log somewhere else. So for all these things, you need to have different loggers. If you want to create a logger, the process is very simple. You need to follow like just 5 steps, 4 steps, sorry. So first you need to create a login. So same like what you do, you need to do a login. So create a logging handler and its configuration. So then like create logging objects and their configuration. Then add the handlers and use the object. So, so traditionally what we have, so import logging. So logging dot basic config. This is how we did, right? Some level is equal to logging dot info. So file name is something, all those things you read. Then like you are displaying logging dot say critical or warning or something. Okay, like same info if I do info of. So this is info log. You don't have much thing, just 3 steps. Import doing these things. Whereas now, see here, for the same import I'm doing, that's why I'm not doing anything else. I'm creating logging dot stream handler. So I did ch some variable IT here. For that I'm specifying the level. And also independently you need to do the format also. How the log format should be there. Earlier the format, everything you used to pass here. Now format I created like this separately. For this format I want to add. This format also I want to add to this logger. What are the console header handler is there. For that I am adding this format. And similarly, now I am creating the logger object, and with respect to that I am doing the operations. So console.logger, say logger.logger of so and so. We need to create the logger object, and for that logger object, I am setting the level, and like I'm the basic logger object whichever I have till now, that I need to add. It's kind of like bit confusing initial stage, but very interesting. So in the second method where we are doing like this, in fact, real-time production people use this only. They will not do the basic things. So for one program, small ETLs, they do like the above. But if you're writing a big project, like a web application or so and so, people do like this. You create handler. So for that handler, do the set level. Formatting also you do and set that formatting. Then you create the actual logger object and you do the set level. So, and like you add the handler. So after that, if you execute your application, so you can understand. So if you do like a logging again, it will not affect. See, there is a difference between logger.info compared to like, logging.critical. See here, logger.critical I gave, logging.critical I gave. There is a two differences. If I execute these two, the output will be very different. As I placed it as a stream handler, everything is coming. You see here I gave some kind of formatting to it, but did I give that kind of formatting to this logging.critical? No. Whatever I give will come to the basic config. In basic config, whatever I did, the same thing will come. As here I didn't specify, I get nothing. So now you understood how a typical handler is created. So let me take one more example where you can better understand. So till now, what I did, I created a stream handler. Let's say this time I create a file handler. So if I create a file handler right now, say this process is same again. So this time I just do on this one. So I create like logger dot file handler I need to create, right? What are the file handler object you need to create? You create. So under the logs, I want to create a file, I do. And after that, for this logging handler, there should be a formatting, right? So I create a format object separately, and I do so for this handler, I did the formatting also. So after doing this, I can create my own logger, means the logger object, actual logger object. And for this logger object, I need to set this value. So if you want to print anything, log anything, either logging module or a custom logger object. That's the reason whatever the handler you did, you can add to this. So then finally you do your messaging. So you do your messaging, you get your answer. So logging.message I got message. The same message I want to do with basic config also, I do it. Hope you understood difference between logging.error, logger.error means custom logger object. But this time I didn't do anything else. I kind of created like this Python. This stream handler if I do, sorry, file handler, right? So Python 12 file handler if I execute. See now, nothing will come in the output because I created log slash so and so. So it will go in this directory. So it will print it. And each time if I execute, it is creating the logs, right? So that is how it works. And also observe every time I'm giving files, I'm giving like this path, right? If this logs folder is not present, it will throw an error. So I ensure that the file is present. So that is like, file management thing, which I just want to tell you. So hope it is clear. Similarly, if I go for one more example for this file handler, you can understand that if we go ahead and create like one more file handler, logging, you can see that. So file handler means the same logic again. So first we need to take the file and add the config and information. So you see in this example, I place it as it is. You notice that all the information is there. You have like, created the logger first, then like formatting, set that format, and like add to the handler a logger object and do it. So like this, the same thing happens. So why we need this kind of separate logic? Don't you think it is confusing? It may be initially, but down the line you don't feel so. The reason is simple. Once you do with this kind of logging, we can have multiple loggers. For the same file, if you want to have multiple loggers, that is what in real time it happens. In real time, you can have a stream handler and file handler both together. So if you want some kind of handler, you can do with it. Say like if I want to create a program with like multiple handlers, one is a file handler and other one is a stream handler. So I give the path of the file and do it. Say like, only outputs I want like that. And say I created the log file. This is some path, just go through it, you'll understand. I want to create a file handler. Say for both the handlers, I need format. That's why I placed format at the top. And I created a file handler object. For the file handler, I did the format and I set the level as error. Means from error onwards, I want to go to the error file. But in other cases, I want to go to the, this one. So stream handler. So in that case, I created like this. See here, I created a stream handler format. I gave this one, and I did the thing. Means for the stream handler, I didn't specify any level. Default level is error, right? That will come. So here for the error handler, I specify the level also. Yeah, sir, level as placed is this thing. Then I got it. But for the overall object also, I can do a set level. Means it's like, so getting from a big pipe, like dividing to other pipes like that. So individual handle level also you can set the levels. At the object level also you can do the set levels. And after doing all those things, finally you need to add these two loggers. If I do right now, if I add to a one file, you can notice that now CLS. See now, we can hear me. Hello.
Yes.
Yes.
Fine. So you can see that now it came to the output. At the same time, if I check in this files, there is a file like this. This is a text message something. Which file I placed? In the same way, right? In the C, in this current directory only I placed. So it is coming here only. You see here? Whenever I'm executing this time, so did you see? At a time, it is outputs are coming to both stream and also output. So that is the beauty of both the things. So like this, people will add in real time. So there are like Sentry is there, Sumo Logic is there, Splunk is there. So if they want to redirect their files, logs to somewhere else in real time, so we can do with different kinds of things. And also there is one, so production project. So I brought one example from there for you to understand. Real time people make differently. If you are creating an automation tool, so where like you want logs to come in a particular format, in a particular position. You see here in this example, based upon sys.platform, I'm specifying the location. Again, the logics are same, how I want the date, everything I'm doing. If the folder is not there, it will create. So like this real-time example, this is, you can just walk through it. So it can help you. So here, water is my directory. It will execute in that particular way. So if I execute, till now I am doing in the current directory or in the logs folder directory. But I want to do in a particular directory where, see here, if it is Windows, C:/logs in that directory. If I say like, ls-la, if I do like this, cpath, did you see that it is coming? So in different dates it is there. So today's date is 15th of March, so 23. You see here, there's a directory. So with that name, say 15th March, so and so. If I execute, you see that there is a file here. So the file is coming there. And if I wanna do that one here, I can specify the entire path and I can check it, right? So if you want to see a file, it is not ls, you should say cat command. You got the entire. So if I execute the same file again, Python, so 15 so and so, and after that subsequent, and like next, if you go further, for one more example to start with. Okay. Okay, so fine. It won't create here. It will create there. Fine. And moving further, yeah. One good example to show here is about how do you create your own logging object your own way. If you want to create your own custom way, of course, when you go to the object-oriented programming classes, you will understand how to create a class. So typical class, how do you create? I told class. So what are the name you have, that name, and within that you need to write the methods. These are called as functions. Similarly, you can think. But if I can create one, you can understand that like how it works. So I created like import logging, and this off object is not needed in Python 3, but like it just you do. This is like doc strings. So simple. This is like constructor which you learn afterwards. So for if you want to create any log, so you remember in a config also you passed all information, right? Like that here also you can pass. So there is a logger object will come. From there you pass everything. For that you define. So though you need not understand like how the classes is working, but observe briefly that how this is created. It is have like a warn method, log method, log info, log warning, log debug. You remember those things you did, right, for a typical logging method? Same like that here also you can do. And here also, see here, he added like a file handler directly. So you can do like all these things in a single place, like a class you can do, and you can inherit it. This is called as inheritance. So means like you're passing one class to another class, and you do your job as it is, but it will create the things in the backend for you. You see now, so wherever I go with this particular thing, you can notice it. If I go further, so like Python 16, so and so. So where it gonna create? So log.txt we are doing. So it will create in that directory. You see, a log.txt is created. Some log2 like that, something is created. So whichever, these are like various way of practical usages in real-time applications. Also, not only this, I remember I told you, right? We can pass these logs to another things like Sentry or like Sumo Logic or Splunk. We can pass. Whenever you're passing to another service like that, they don't expect like like in a structured format someday. So they expect like something like a JSON or a better way. So if you want to use, there is a module called as Python JSON logger. So if I do like Python JSON logger, it will not come by default, and you need to install it. If you want to install, this is a command I told. Pip is a module with which you install anything. If I say capital U means like if it is installed, upgrade it. If it is not installed, then install it. Then for the current user only you want to do. It has done it. Now this module was installed for me. Same like your ordinary logger, you can make use of this also. So till now you are creating handlers and adding to the main logger, right? In the same fashion, here also you do the same thing. So first you need to create the handler. So till now, earlier I did a stream handler, right? Then I also remember I did create like file handler. Instead of a file handler, this time I want to do a JSON handler. JSON formatter I want to do. And I want to do the formatting, and I want to create a logger object, and I want to do. So you see here what happened. I'm doing a formatting. So for that handlers, and like for that I want to do. So earlier I did a ordinary formatting. Now I'm doing a JSON formatting for the same handler. Now we see here it will work. Python space 17 so and so. Did you see earlier how things came with an ordinary formatter? Now how things are coming. Earlier you remember for the same formatter you gave format like this, right? So you remember percentile message. So exactly we need to give, right? Percentile message, percentile something I give. So instead of that, percentile ASC, ASC type, percentile level name. Hope you remember you used to give like this. Yes. So like this you used to give, right? If I comment that, you can notice that it used to give like that. So the format, but like after giving this one, so things were different. It will come as it is. So this kind of string JSON formatting is suitable whenever you want to do anything. And one assignment I want to give is like using these options, give a try to understand how to add date and time to these levels. It's a very interesting module. So like you need to understand how to use this module. So if you see here in this formatting, you can pass extra information. If you just go there, you will understand how to work on it. So make the best use of it and try to complete that assignment. And after that, like similarly, if you want to do the logging like this, there is for the JSON itself, there is another way if I can add to it. So for that, you have like, like this example you see, you'll understand. I created a class called a JSON formatter. You remember earlier we did a JSON formatter, right? Like that. You give some kind of attributes to JSON. Means if there are like more attributes also, you want only them. How things will be seen. First, I created two handlers. so one handler, sorry, stream handler, and I updated the formatting. So then like similarly file handler also I created. So there also I gave the formatting. Then like I create my logger object, add these two handlers, and I'm printing. Now in this case, I have a stream handler and also file handler. It will display in both the cases. And now I am using this JSON format. So whenever I get anything, I want to use only these attributes. And whenever these attributes are coming, I want to display like this thing. And I want to do a JSON.dumps. Means earlier I made use of a third-party module, right? Sometimes when you are in a banks or some financial organizations, they don't allow you to do the third-party modules. In that case, if you want to create on your own, this is how you can do. So if I say Python, say 17 so and so logging JSON, you see now, instead of a third-party module, you created everything on your own. So when you see third parties are like one particular way, this is your customization. So I use the same example when I want to pass to a Splunk. So what all things you want? You see, create a date, file name, all information is there, right? But it's like a JSON. So every time I'm doing JSON.dumps, it's creating and giving it. So then it is easy, right? For me to further process also. Similarly, so the last two things are like rotating handlers. Till now you say in different formats. And at the same time, rotating handlers. Rotating means what will it rotate? It is not that it will rotate anything. It is in fact like rotating your file only. So let's say there are something called as a rotating file handler. So till now you have seen some of the handlers. To be frank, if I say show you the list of handlers, you will understand that. So Python, say 18 so and so. You see now. So how many handlers are there? Page rotating handler, buffer handler, so default handler, datagram handler, HTTP handler, memory handler, whatnot. There are many kinds of handlers like this. But if I want to research on some of them, so we can go with the first thing. Say like in the very first thing, I'm going with one example where I want to say I don't want to comment it and I want to display it. You see in this way how it happens. I am creating the log folder in that particular location and I gave the log file path. So I pass the log file name, that is fine. So instead of, till now, all these things are already there. These are not new. But one thing that you are seeing newly for the first time is that this one. Instead of passing the file name is equal to, you are passing that handlers equal to. Means there can be multiple handlers you can have. So one such handler is this one. So one such handler is that rotating file handler of what are the file name and what is the maximum bytes and the backup count. What are these three things you will understand interestingly. I want to do a logging of 10, 50 times I'm doing looping and I'm doing a warning log and I'm sleeping for 3 seconds just for us to better understand. Why I'm sleeping means you can observe everything slowly. So just so 50 logs I'm generating. So now you see here it is a file handler. So nothing will come outside. Everything will go to a file. That is clear. So if I execute this rotation file handler, so if I go here, you can notice that a new file will come. So, and it will be stored. So what is the file name? Let me show. Yeah, in the logs, in the current file name, see here, new file is coming and it is executing. Observe for every, so 3 seconds, it will sleep and let execute all the things, right? And observe carefully, I'm not doing anything. It will continuously execute some big program. Assume I'm mimicking like a large program. So 10 logs, 11 logs. So whatever log information is coming in. So I gave, if you remember here, I gave two things, maximum bytes and the backup count. The moment the size of the file is increasing the 1000 bytes, it is creating a new backup. Did you see what happened? So the first logs earlier which worked, so means this is a typical current log file. The earlier things, when 1000 happened, it took a backup. That's why it is called as log.1. There is nothing like a log.1 format. It is like a backup. See, no more additions to it. So similarly, still it is running. The moment 1000 bytes were completed, it will create one more backup. How many times like this it will make a backup? You see, by the numbers also I gave so that you will understand. See, the first earlier backup became like now second backup. So 0 to 11 are there, right? 13. It used to be log.1. Now it was renamed as log.2. And the other files are coming to 15, 20, 27. This is backup 2. So next, some more values are adding. Over a period of time, then what happens? When more values are coming, as we need to maintain only 2 backups, the first iteration of things which were earlier there in log2 will be removed, and the first file will become second file. So again, like this, it will maintain. So you see now, in log2 file, log.2, the earlier files were gone, earlier data records were gone. So then like next is there, next is there. With this, what you need to understand, you are giving a size, the file should maximum having this much size only. If the size is increasing, then take a backup. Like that, how many backups you need to retain, that count also you give. You see now here you mentioned that maximum bytes is 1000. The moment the size is increasing 1000, it's not 1000 means not lines, it is the size of the file. So if you have more attributes within the single line itself, obviously with less than lines only, the byte size will increase, right? So here we took the consideration of the size for this notation handler. So based upon that, it is working in the same fashion. The same thing can be achieved. Yeah. So you can give like this. This is easy because you can add like any number of rotation handlers or different handlers. Means in this way, when you're doing, you can add a different loggers also. Maybe for file only like this, but for a stream handler, you can do directly. So like that, you can specify. There is no point of rotating for a stream, right? So there is no point. So only for files, it makes sense. Files are so and so. Similarly, you can also do the same thing in another way. Means like instead of basic config and doing an ordinary way, you can create a logger object. Hope you remember in real time people use like this. They create a logger object, and for that logger object, you can add the handler, and you add this handler. Then the moment you are using this logger object, it also does the same thing. It will do. Now, if I do both of them, so both will also do. So this is going to different directory, that is going different directory. Assume that both are doing in the same place. You can do achieve it. So if I execute right, both of them in one shot, I can do. So here I can take this one. So both I can do here. Yes, I can do both of them right now. So method 1 and method 2 together, they are executing together, and you can do. Of course, things are already started. I just don't want to repeat it, but you can try again. So using both of them, you can see it. Similarly, not only this, there is another kind of rotation also. Till now, what you see, based upon the file size, right? What if based upon the time you want to have a backup? So you can have time rotating log backup. This is most interesting. So which people do in a real time a lot. So the logic is same here also. We need to take the same logic here. In a time rotation, you need to understand these are the most common things. Seconds, minutes, hours, days. And if you want only for the weekdays, like week numbers, you can specify. Or like only in the midnight or like that. Here also same thing. You create a logger object and set a level to it. Then set a formatting. These are the common things. And then you want to add the handler. So here I want to add a file handler. I took the file handler, log, the path, and I added this time rotating handler. I gave it. For this, for time rotating, you give the file name. When you want to rotate, so means like for every second you want to do. So for every minute or every hour, like that, this thing for every. So here I give second so that we can understand. So interval is 5, means like for every 5 seconds I want to do. Is it clear? If I say m here and 5 is here, means for every 5 minutes. So this is like interval rotation thing. So I'm saying like every 5 seconds I want to do. How many backups I want? 5. Then I did like a formatting, added this handler, and I'm doing executing. You see now what will happen. So Python, so 19, if I execute time rotation handler, it will execute crazily for 30 times. Every second it is executing. You see now. You see now, first a new file was created. So you see here, for every 5 seconds, I want to create a backup. I wrote like that. You see now, for every seconds, the first backup, second backup, with a timestamp, it is taking the backup. You see the first 4 logs were in the first backup, second backup. So earlier you remember, so the backups only like 2 or 3 were there, right? And the numbers were like log.1, log.2 like that. Here logs will have a date name, date all date times timestamp. So how many logs backup, how much you want, it will maintain. So after that, like I told, maximum 5 only you maintain. If you are getting things more than that, so then like it will remove those other files and it will add the new files. So this is like a time-based, rotation. In the same fashion, like you can also have a color logging. So this is one more example. It is not like in Visual Studio Code or something. It is mainly designed whenever you want to work with Linux environment, where you want to see everything in the terminal, right? You don't have a better UI for better representation. There is something called as color log. Using color log module, we can do it. The logic is simple. Say for some color, some logs you want like some colors. If you want to do that kind of coloring, you can do it. So here you can specify one format. So this color log is for formatting only. So for formatting, so you need to specify it. Mainly, this is for stream handler. So it makes no sense to go for a file handler, right? In a file, will it store the colors? No, right? So if you use for a file, so it makes no sense. Only for the streams only, this will be really helpful. And this is one of the things. If you want to use, you need to install this color log module, and subsequently you can use it. Python space 20 so and so. Did you see the color scale? So not only for this color log module is useful for other purposes also. If you have any terminal based utilities, tools you created. So for that, if you want coloring, you can do it. So see here, color formatter you passed, and you did the formatting. For your log object, you added the format, that's it. So it is also just formatting only, but it is doing like this. And so there are like multiple use cases like this. Not only these things, you can also do the buffering of the logs. So of course, this is one advanced concept you will never use in real time a lot of times. But if you get a use case, you can use this one also. So though I'm like copy pasting, it's not that difficult. Whenever you have a use case, you come back and see. So you are doing like a smart buffer handler. For that, it is like a predefined thing. So you have some capacity, you are increasing, and so if the capacity increases, it will remove like a buffer. You can think you are doing your logs and it will execute it. So you see now. So what are the logs are coming? It will come. So after that, like it won't do. So I just want to give much more things are like SMTP handler. A lot of things are there, but I think like it's too much for you. But like I can stop here in terms of logging. Then like quickly, I want to show you the last 2 things in the logging. So same like this built-in logging where you can do these much customizations. So though users do so much also, like people like to have their own logging. So like basic logging, there is one more thing called a struct logging. Struct log. This is also one of the famous logging. So this is a third party you need to install if you want to use it. So if you want to use this logging, hope you remember till now, if you want to do logging in a particular way, you can just pass the message, that's it, right? Ordinary logging. So whereas in struct logging, so first we need to install this module if you want to use it. So pip install struct log. If I do, I can install it. So after installing it, I can use it. Same like an ordinary logger, but you need to create logger object every time here. So, and for that, you can do the message. So there are like message. So I will tell you this here. So by default, if you do message also, it is info only. So if I navigate struct log Python, yes, and so you see, even if I do message or info, both are same. Here they created a new one called as message because to make it easy for other languages people to understand. So message means like by default info only will come. And similarly, not only this, you can also pass other information also. In an ordinary logging, if you pass extra information, everything you need to do string formatting and pass like a single string. Whereas here you can pass extra information also. So you passed extra information this time. Maybe like I will clear the existing screen and show it. You see, you passed extra information. So whom, some values I passed. Not only that, like, this time I want to pass some other information. So no matter whether this key or like anything, you can pass A, B, C, D, whatever you want. But whatever you pass it. Like this, you can pass extra information in the log, not like a single string. And not only that, like in the logs, you can add like extra things like, so if you want to do some kind of rendering, say like, I can do some kind of configuration here also. So for the log, so struct log dot process of key value rendering means if I want to render the values like a key values, and if I pass it, then you see now. So CLS and Python, you see now how it will happen. So if I don't do like this, okay, this structure configuring, if I don't do, what will happen by default? It will show the output like this for you. This is what the default format. But if I do like so this key value rendering, so then you see the same output, how it turns. Output will come like a key values. In the same fashion, like, there are like different renders within this. So I think like basic things I told, I want to tell like the JSON renderer. If I specify the JSON renderer in the struct log config, then observe difference. So everything will come like a JSON message. You need not take the extra things of like doing all on yourselves. It will help you serve the things. And in the same fashion, not only this, there is one more thing called as log format rendering. If I do log format rendering, you get like this. So like this, if you want to do, there are many customized renderings. As it is like going out of scope, I'm not telling too much. But these are the real-time examples, what you want to see. And not only this, the last example I want to bring to your notice is in terms of configuration. So whenever you are configuring some information, you can do like this. You see here. So in this example, what you can understand, say like, I'm making too much, right? This is a big example for you to understand. Yeah. You see now, I created like a processors. So means like in the previous place, everything you placed in one place, right? Like that I can say everything in one place, like a processors. If I do like that processors, you can do like, so with log levels, it will come. You see, what are you placed? You want like a JSON and you want the log level also. You placed it. So there, what are the configurations you want? Everything you need to specify here. So for exception message also, did you see? Exception info is there, event is there, what is the level is there, whatever you want, everything is there. And similarly, like, if the same message, if you are passing with what levels, what things you want is specified. Like if I go extra and say that, hey, I want level, format, timestamp, how I want, and it should be in the console. Like that, if I do all of information, you can see everything in one place. Did you see how beautiful the format is? So like this, if you want to add like more configurations also, you can do. So if I add like a few more configuration information, you see this time, log I want, stack info rendering, exception, everything I do. You see now what will happen. So it is doing everything in a more beautiful way. Like that, if you want to add further big also, I am taking like all examples to show you. So I think like we can stop here, but these are like advanced kind of logging, which is not mandatory for anyone. But if you want to learn, you can use it. So like this, if you want to add a lot of things in real world examples, if you are creating a project, so most of the things I saw these only. Okay, so just walk through it so we can stop here.